Hello Aquarius, thank you so much for joining me for your monthly forecast for October for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did now. This month begins with a collection of energy in the sign of Libra, which is your sister air triplicity, and it's very much for you to do with travel, higher education, expanding your horizons, independence, and being a bit more adventurous in general. Now, on the 4th of this month, Mars, the planet of passion and power, joins up with Libra too. So that's adding an extra slice of drive and determination to your approach. It is true that on the 3rd, Mercury makes a transition from the 9th house, from Libra, into Scorpio. In this location, it's going to bring your thinking more closely in touch with perhaps your worldly involvements and interactions, your ambitions. If you are thinking about doing some training, for example, to apply for a job or to redo your resume, this would be a perfect time to do it. You can also think more creatively about your work this month, Aquarius, because of the role of Uranus. And I think for some water bearers, that may mean considering working from home or structuring part-time roles around family life or other interests or creative output, just to give you the flexibility to really focus on what's important to you, but also make sure that the support structures in your life are working well. Also on the 3rd, Pluto, the planet of change but of power, ends a retrograde which began on the 10th of April. It depends on exactly when your birthday is in Aquarius, but the earlier your birthday is into Aquarius, the more you've probably been affected by Pluto over the last 8 years or so. And I think that Pluto coming to a close in its retrograde can help you to feel a little bit more at ease about some of the psychological things that have really been quite powerfully present in your subconscious over this last few months, not least because of the role of Saturn, which is in the same location. If it does feel that you're clearing up lots of loose ends, it's also almost like the emotional cupboard of us Aquarius people. We're checking through it, sifting through to see what's what. Some things need to be taken out and, in truth, taken to the recycling centre, taken to the charity shop, proverbially, metaphorically, if you like. The things that are no longer serving a purpose. So it doesn't necessarily mean that some of these things are sinister, but say some of the conditioning which Saturn's about from our past that's no longer really appropriate, that can be put to one side. But we can also clean the cupboard out. We can reassure ourselves, we can realign our whole thought processes and sense of identity, strengthen it through this quite strident and stringent process of both Pluto and Saturn going through the 12th house. It is not necessarily easy. However, this month does see Pluto come to an end of its retrograde on the 3rd, and it also sees Saturn come to the end of an opposition with a nominal point known as the point of destiny, or the North Node, which has, since the beginning of April too, seen a clash between the more physical and practical elements of your situation with the more emotional and subconscious ones. So if you have felt underpowered, not quite as self-assured or self-confident, if you felt a greater need to cocoon yourself away from other people, or socialising seemed a little bit more of a testing and trying environment, I do feel that you can start to feel a little easier. But there are going to be some challenges this month, because as much as the Sun and Venus and Mercury initially and then Mars are pushing you and I to be more outgoing, more experimental, to embrace that freedom-loving side of our nature, it can't be done if there are still parts of that emotional cupboard which are not quite cleared up enough yet. Otherwise, it may mean a case of trying to do something before the time is quite right. So if you're still feeling a little raw and exposed and still learning deeply about yourself, try to continue to go through that healing process in as patient a way as possible. Because forcing the pace from the 5th through to the 11th, when the Sun clashes with Saturn, or from the 11th through to the 17th, when the Sun clashes with Pluto, or in the last 10 days of this month, when Mars goes into a right angle with Saturn, will be entirely counterproductive. So it's a case of being comfortable with the things that you can make some changes around, where advancement is possible, but do make sure that it's safety first. Because Aquarius people are by nature wonderful communicators, but because of the air rulership of our sign, very often that comes through an intellectual prism. Even if you don't see yourself as necessarily being an intellectual, which I don't, but we do love to discuss ideas. We are very principled very often. We care about the planet. We care about other person kind. And those things and the way society is heading over all sorts of issues can all feed into our sense of self. So it's important to keep reinforcing what is the most vulnerable part of our natures, quite frankly, because Saturn moving through the 12th house, along with Pluto, this is really huge stuff. And until that cupboard is really clear, dusted, wiped down, everything's reordered, yes, you can't take away all of the pain from the past, but you can get more air around it, more understanding. We can see it for how it is now, not perhaps how it was then. So the greater perspective we can get, the more ease we can feel in ourselves. Then as Venus moves into Scorpio on the 9th and the Sun on the 24th, there is a fantastic opportunity to reorder our professional environment, to reach out to people, to raise our profile if we feel ready to do it. The difference this time is that firstly Mercury, then Venus, then the Sun are all going to be cooperating beautifully with Uranus. But Uranus is asking us to change up the emotional outlook, the family relationships, the need for space that can be strong with Aquarius people, balancing it with the need to be receptive and close to people. So it's making everything work. And the core of the challenge of this month probably does come on the back of the full moon, which occurs on the 14th, which sees Pluto dissecting the opposition between the moon in Aries and the Sun in Libra. So at that critical point, it is going to be mightily important to make sure that the communication that's being shared is rightly in tune and aligned with our true emotional needs. So if there is a kind of desire to do something quite erratically, to break out, to do something quite ambitiously, where we don't quite think through the potential consequences, that might be counterproductive. But once the Sun does move into Scorpio on the 24th, this is a chance to recast things in a bright, bold and dynamic way, which is going to be boosted hugely by the new moon of the 28th. There's also a sensational alliance this month between Jupiter and also Pluto. The armchair psychologist part of Aquarius nature can be such an asset in this respect, because your ability, and I hope my ability, to see into situations, to see into people, but not go through the process of actually working things out by trying to make people perhaps see the sense of your viewpoint, more seeing it before it happens. So I think Jupiter can be very much about learning, so there can be some profound insights into what's good for your future. I hope what's good for mine, about the people who are right for us, who can complement our future, who are going to be very positive assets to us. And as the month draws to a close, it is true that Mercury goes into a retrograde, and there could be some stop-starts around some kind of goal or ambition. But I think it's being in the right place to take advantage of whatever is right. So this month really has fabulous opportunities to travel, to be creative, to be imaginative, to push boundaries, but do so in a way that you feel comfortable with. Of course, all of this depends on your natal horoscope. I have lots of planets in Aquarius, all stacked up at the start of Aquarius, pretty well in the first 10 degrees. So the Pluto transit for me has had a profound impact since it moved into Capricorn in 2008. I also have Mercury in Capricorn as well. If your sun sign, Aquarius sun sign, is later into Aquarius, the effect of Pluto may not have been felt so much so far because you may have been benefiting from a semi-sextile. But certainly Saturn moving through this area is something that none of us is going to particularly forget. Saturn in the 12th house is about endings, and there may have been some painful separations and endings or coming to terms with. If you'd like to know more about what 2020 will hold for you, the individual, based on your time, date and place of birth, you can order next year's forecast from me with a character analysis for 30% off, but I'll give you the rest of this year free of charge. Please see the link beneath this video, but for now, it's been a pleasure being with you, Aquarius. Good luck and goodbye.